Wait, how do I start a video like this? I guess like this. Anyways, as you saw in the title, today I'm gonna tell you, and place a little bit, on why the Awakend faction is the best and coolest sub-faction out of any tower defense game. Before we start, I must mention this video will be separated in 5 different chapters. Chapter 1, who are the Awakend, basically a brief explanation about them. Chapter 2, their army. Chapter 3, the lore, also some theories I had. Chapter 4, why they are so cool. And Chapter 5, the Wretched. Having said this, let's begin with Chapter 1. Also, sorry if I pronounce something wrong. English is not my first language and I'm still learning a little bit. So I apologize for the inconvenience. This part is to give a little explanation on the Awakend, for the people that doesn't know anything about them or needs a little refresh. Feel free to skip to this part of the video. So, who are they? The Awakend is a sub-faction or the cult of the Calamity faction. They worship the Calamity and probably the Void too, in some way, as they possess corruption abilities, but I'll get that in later on the video. Something to mention is that they have their own world just like the Calamity has its own. One example of this is on the Halloween event of 2024, Chapter 1, the map is a medieval castle, although it's on ruins, and if you look behind the enemy spawn you can see multiple Calamity statues. Although I could be wrong and it's the same realm as the Calamity. On the same event, the Awakend invaded our world because we took their resources for our own purpose. For this chapter, I will explain the army of the Awakend. Their army is mainly stolen machines and converter soldiers from other factions like the GDA or the mechs from Dr. Xenon. But we have a question, how they do this? Well, the answer is simple, the Engineer and the Heretic. They are responsible for most, if not all of the Awakend army. The Heretic was responsible for the possessed civilians from Chapter 1 as seen on the villagers, cell-cutters, executioners, policemen, and the judge. And some lines he says in the nightmare mode of Chapter 1.
This world was no believers. Believing is sure no sense for this world. I have shown them the truth. Let me guide you to see commandments. The soul men you see before you were once walking here. Enslaved to your world. They now see the ways from all war calamities all.
Now, the Engineer is the one responsible for the technology that they use, as seen from the Battle Master tanks and the Dreadnoughts from Chapter 3. But it doesn't stop there. He's also responsible for the corrupted Predators, corrupted Apex Predator, and corrupted Eradicator MK2. But also it's worth to mention that he possesses some sort of magic, as he's able to kill the Heretic in Chapter 2. Also something important is that he took over Xenon's factory, aka the map from Chapter 2. That's how he was able to get his hands on the Predators and probably parts from the AK-2 and Apex Predator. He also admires Dr. Xenon's work, and he said in Chapter 2 Nightmare mode, "I'm probably trying to convince her to join them, but if she refuses, need him to call her stubborn." This chapter will be divided in 3 parts. Part 1, a recap of the DDX lore, Part 2, the events of the invasion, and Part 3, the theories. Let's begin with Part 1. Now, let's recap the DDX lore. Don't worry, I'll make this recap up to the Awakend invasion as short as I can. First, there was the Void, an ancient god that sent an army of zombies to unleash chaos all over the world. Then the GDA was formed. They used Calamity energy to create golden towers in order to counter Void's army and eventually defeat him. And then Xenon sacrificed Malory.
Malory, I need about 6 to 7 volts.
6, 7.
After that, she left the GDA. Then the events of Endless Mode, where Apex Predator used his core to exploit himself. But he attracted Calamity and shocked both Dr. Xenon and the GDA, but he was defeated too. And then the Awakend invasion started. And with that, we conclude part 1 of chapter 3. Let's move on to part 2. Now, this chapter will recap the events of the Halloween event 2024. The Awakend emerged from their realm to take revenge against the DA because they stole Calamity's energy back when they were fighting the Void. On chapter 1 of the event, the GDA is raiding a castle on the Awakend's world. The castle which is being owned by the Heretic.
Yeah, this is the Heretic. He is like in charge of this giant castle thing.
He sent his possessed army against us.
Can you see it, brothers? His will grows weak, like his soul. But man cannot stop us. I will not be you, Commander. Alright!
After that speech, he was defeated by the GDA. Now, on chapter 2, we're reading the factory, the place where the enemies are presumably made by the engineer. Here we meet new enemies, like the Welders, Nail Golems, Nailheads, Twitching Bells, and Corrupted Predators. It's also worth to mention that there are some returning enemies, like the Redacted, the Anti-Golems, the Avatars, and the Predators. Here the final boss of this chapter is the engineer. He mentions that he put himself together with the pieces of Fallen and he will add us to his collection. After more jumping and banger of a song, he was eventually defeated. Now, on chapter 3, we're tasked to defend an artillery that's being used to take down a citadel used by the Awakens. But, what does this citadel do? For the looks of it, and this dialogue of the character Oil, it seems that it's being used as some sort of portal for the Awakens to use. But a couple months ago, John posted 4 voice lines that were supposed to be used on this chapter but they never got in. And one of them says this.
Commander, we are in serious need of help. Our main artillery batteries are down. All we have left is this turret. We're gonna use this against the Citadel. Taking that down will prevent their forces from reviving. It's gonna take us some time though. We need you to defend this area from hostiles while we take out the Citadel. Good luck, Commander.
So, if the citadel is being used as some sort of structure to keep reviving the enemies, so where are they coming from? Well, if you look outside the map, you can see 2 portals, which are similar to the one we see in the map Scorched Passage, also known as the map where the Calamity resides. So that's probably where they're coming from. But going back defending the artillery, the narrator of this chapter, Oil, explains that the artillery is being used to take down the citadel, and we need to defend it at all costs, since the other artilleries were already being taken down by the army of the undead. In this chapter, we can see more of the creations of the engineer, like the Barrel Master tanks and the dreadnoughts. But one of the surprises that this chapter gives is Corrupted Eradicator MK2. When he spawns, Oil freaks out, believing we already destroyed this guy. And he was right, we already destroyed Eradicator MK2. But this one is not from Dr. Xenon, as John said in his livestream.
Thanks for the 2. Corrupted Eradicator MK2, as you can see, he's more purpleized, things like that, because the Awakened is mostly purple. of color. You can see is more zombified. This is definitely corrupt. It is not the same guy, or it's the same sort of armor it takes in design and things like that, but it is not from Dr. Xenon.
More on that later on the video. So we fought the Rector in Q2. He hit us with a FNAF jumpscare.
Okay, so the first night is never usually that bad in any of the games, so I'll play through. What the fuck? Oh!
He was eventually defeated. And the serial taken down. Now, on the final chapter, chapter 4, we are located in the last GDA base. The advisor tells us that this is the last GDA standing and is the key to win against the Awakens. He also mentions that the other bases got overrun by the Awakens while we were fighting the engineer. And ever since we killed him, the production has stopped, but his final creations are here to take us down. He also mentions that dreadnoughts are being teleported in, meaning that the Awakens has some sort of teleportation technology, which could have been stolen again from Dr. Xenon. After all, they overrun one of her own factories. In this chapter we finally fight against our counterparts, being the corrupted Golden Juggernauts. But we also fight against corrupted Apex Predator. And lastly, we fight the man himself, the Wretched. On the Nightmare mode, the Wretched is the narrator. He tells us that we are not fighting for freedom, but rather to keep stealing Calamity's resources. And the GDA has lied to us, but also thinks that Xenon's creations are idiotic. After more jumping and a fight definitely not underwhelming, the Wretched was finally defeated, bringing the Awakend invasion to an end for once and for all. Have already recapped the TDX lore and the events of the Halloween chapters. I think it's fair to say I can share some theories I have with the Awakens. Let's begin with the first one. For this theory, I will try to explain how the engineer was able to get his hands on the corrupted predators, but also on the corrupted Eradicator and Apex Predator. So let's begin with the map of chapter 2. The Factorium map is not a place in the enemy's world, but rather ours. As we already know, this place used to be one of Xenon's factory before the engineer overran it and took it by himself. So this explains how he was able to get his hands on the predators and some other enemies we also fight. But also, this also may be the place where he was able to create the dreadnoughts and barrel master tanks. Speaking of barrel master tanks, I do believe that these tanks were made from the destroyed pieces of the behemoths. After all, we know that behemoths were used to take down the two Chimbaos as stated from John in the chapter 2 normal mode. But also in the Nightmare mode update on the Discord server, it says that there's a rumor that behemoths were used to fight against the Awakened invasion. So it makes sense for the engineer to take these destroyed behemoths and use it to build the barrel master tanks. But going back to the map, we can see a void heart. The same void heart we can see on the Tower Barrows event. But this one has a calamity symbol. This is probably one of many void hearts left by the boy after he died, and is used by the Awakens to connect their world to ours. But now, moving to Corrupted Eradicator and Cape 2, as I said before, this one is not from Dr. Xenon. But if it is not from Dr. Xenon, where did he come from? Well, let's take a look at his design. It has purple arms, but the head is still red, meaning it's the original head of the Eradicator AK2. But where did the engineer got these parts? Well, I think the best answer is the Awakens used the parts from already destroyed Eradicators AK2. As we already know, Xenon was able to make multiple copies of Eradicators, so there is no exception that she made multiple copies of NK2. So most likely the engineer went to the previous battlefields where we fought NK2, recollect the parts of the destroyed ones, and put one together with those parts. But probably the arms were too damaged, so he had to regrow the flesh and also give it new weapons, while the head is still pretty much intact, and this makes sense since we already know NK2 explodes, both of his arms go flying, while the rest of his body explodes and burns. Which the corrupted person also has a similar death animation, both of his arms go flying and the rest of his body explodes, meaning that it still has the overheat core issue that Dr. Xenon had. Although the same thing cannot be said for Apex Predator. We know that Apex Predator was able to fight against the corruption since he still has some of his original armor.
See, he has a giant cross, and he does have a bit of his original armor on his shoulder right here, because he still managed to fight against the corruption, I guess, in some way. And then he has like those giant purple arms and things like that. And as you can see, the back as well. And his core is completely removed, so you can't do that blow up thing no more.
But this information alone is not enough to tell us how he was corrupted. So my best guess is that the engineer of the Wretched found one Apex Predator deployed by Dr. Xenon to fight against the GDA. So they decided to corrupt him. Well, of course, Apex Predator fought back, but at the end of the day he ended just like the rest, corrupted. And the engineer gave you a new weapon and new armor. Now, for this theory, I will try to explain how exactly the Awakens are related to the Void, since we already know they possess one Void heart from Chapter 2, have corruption abilities, and there's Void crystals on the Citadel of Chapter 3. So how exactly did they got these things? You might say they just reused the Void heart when the Void was still around, but what about the Void crystals in the Citadel? What about the corruption abilities? What about their color palettes being almost the exact same as the Void, purple and black? Well, I think I might have the answer for that. What if the Awakened not always have been worshipping the Calamity, but they have worshipped the Void first? Okay, I know this sounds a little off, and you may be asking, did you make this video at 3 AM on a Wednesday while being high? Maybe. But hear me out, let me explain my theory, please don't click off the video, I need this! So first, the Void is an ancient entity. He's probably been around long enough for a cult to form around him, and this cult could have worked together with the Void. That's why they share some similar abilities and some Void crystals. Not to mention the color palettes being black and purple, just like the Void. So probably after the Void died, this cult fell in desperation. They just had killed their god and they swore revenge against the Jedi for killing him. So in desperation to worship someone else, they eventually find another faction, the Calamity faction, and they decided to worship it. And they eventually learned that the Calamity faction also has some beef with the GDA because they stole their resources to make the Golden Towers. So they have a common enemy, and they eventually start working together just like they did with the Void. And this could explain why there's a Void heart in the map Scorched Passage. So already mentioned, is the map where the Calamity resides. But also the redacted enemies within Chapter 2 and the manners depicted Malory, or as she became, Nemesis. And this could explain why they're insanely mad at the GDA, not only because they stole Calamity's resources, but also because they killed their god. And I don't know about you, but watching the trailer and the way they started the invasion, there was some really resentment against the GDA in there. Like there was something they were really mad what they did before. Like yeah, I would be mad too if the person I worship they got the resources stolen. But it seems they've been anticipating this for a long time. Start the invasion against the GDA. Like just hear the Wretched speech and just see how they started the invasion. They used the GDA soldiers against them. They built tanks, mechs, and even stole Xenon's creations, and used Void hearts to link both of their worlds. And maybe, just maybe, someone else helped them to start the invasion. But I'm getting ahead of myself way too much, so let's go to the next theory. One of my favorite theories about this video. So the fight between the Wretched and the Eradicator MK4 is something that happened. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can hear the Wretched name in the Eradicator MK4 theme song. These lyrics reference the appearance of the Wretched. So the Wretched spawning half reference the Wretched second phase, where he leaves his outer exosuit behind and he reveals he has an inner snake exosuit. Splitter skulls referencing how the Wretched has a helmet that can split open, as seen on the trailer. Rip their guts referencing how the Wretched is missing his inner torso, only the spine remains. Now, we have a couple questions about this. When did it happen? Where did it happen? How did it happen? The when it was before the weekend invasion started. Because if we see in the trailer, the Wretched is already in his robotic suit. And the next question is, where it happened? Well, I'm not too sure where it happened, and I don't think I can answer that, sadly. As what I would say is the TDX code that GJ didn't talk about it in his livestream.
Did you know that there is a myth, there are rumors that Eradicator Mark IV and the Wretched have fought once before Dr. Xenon left the GDA. She actually made Eradicator Mark IV, and in an expedition to Hell, they fought, and he discovered how to defeat him. That's why he tells you in the lyrics how to defeat the Wretched.
Now, first of all, he said this was a rumor, and no other TDX that has confirmed it or talked about it. But what if he's right, that MK4 went to Hell and fought the Wretched? But first, he mentioned that Dr. Xenon made Eradicator MK4 before leaving the GDA, which I doubt this because at the time Xenon was in the GDA, she did not make big robots. Like yeah, she made the Erad B from tutorial mode and those Eradicator suits we seen on the cutscenes, but nothing as close as a full Eradicator. So my best guess is that she sent MK4 to Hell somewhere around the events of Endless Mode. Now that out of the way, we have one question. Why would Xenon send MK4 to the Calamity's world? You may say it was to fight against the Awakend, but how does she knew the existence? Why did she send an entire army to fight them, and only one MK4? Well, I believe that MK4 was not there to destroy the Awakend, but rather to get more Calamity resources or for some other purpose that we don't know yet. And that's where he countered the Wretched and the Awakened cult. And they began to fight. MK4 split the Wretched in half, split his skull, and ripped his guts. But even after all that, MK4 was destroyed by the Wretched. And we know this because we can hear the word "Save Me" on his theme song. I believe that's the MK4's begging someone to help him, or trying to escape and survive against the Wretched, but eventually meeting his demise. Now, what happened to the MK4 after he was defeated? And how did the Wretched survive after that fight? Well, this is the part where the engineer comes in. He used the parts of the destroyed MK4 and used it on himself and the Wretched, building him a new body but also putting himself together. And I said this because also thanks to the GJ, he also said this in his livestream.
Yeah, I put myself together with a piece of the rear of the mind. It's a pretty badass line. Yeah, when John sent me the concept art and told me how, like, the engineer actually puts himself together with pieces of fallen bosses and soldiers, I was like, oh, that's a pretty good dream.
Although he never showed the concept art, I do believe this. I do believe he also used bosses to put himself together, mainly because of a few things. The first one, the model of the engineer. He has tally marks just like the Eradicator. Second, the engineer loves Xenon's creations. to the point where he asked her to team up. So after the fight and gathering the pieces of the destroyed MK4, he was amazed by the technology Xenon used. Meanwhile, the Wretched called her creations idiotic, because, well, he went face to face with one of them and almost died. Something to point out is that the Wretched has a calamity strap, just like Xenon's creations, meaning that the engineer did use parts of Xenon's creations to build himself together and the Wretched. And finally, the Wretched has some weird similarities with MK4. What I mean by this is that the Wretched has some parts of Eradicator MK4 that you can literally see in game, the first one being the teeth on both helmets. If you watch closely, you can see the teeth of Eradicator MK4 and the Wretched helmets. When it splits open, you can see it has a similar jawline and the similar shape. My second point being those things on the side of the Wretched helmet and Eradicator MK4. They both have similar two things on the side of the helmets. And my last point, and probably not the best, is that both helmets have black lines, although the Wretched has more, but still quite a coincidence. Also, something to support this is that in chapter 3 we can see a dead Eradicator MK4, and you guessed it, it has no helmet.
Coincidence? I think not!
And to finally finish this theory, the fight between the Wretched and the Eradicator MK4 will explain how Xenon found out about the cult. As we can see in this image, in one of the sticky notes, there's a drawing of a calamity symbol being worshipped by people, that we now know is the Awakened. With that being said, let's move on to the next theory. Now for our final theory, this one is gonna be related to the last one. Now, we know that the Awakened worship the Calamity in general, but they also worship someone very specific. Someone that its soul was fed to flames, its soul is in constant pain, and it has a thirst for revenge. Dr. Malory, also known as Nemesis. As a reminder, Dr. Malory was sacrificed by Dr. Xenon somewhere around the 10th of the Tower Battles event. Now, how is she exactly related to Awakend? Well, if you remember in chapter 3, there are multiple banners around the map, all of them showing one specific entity, the Goddess of Vengeance. She is so important to Awakend that one banner was placed on top of the contender enemy. But first, let's give a little backstory. Since her sacrifice, for years her soul was trapped and it was under the control of the Calamity faction. Slowly but surely she was getting more corrupted over time. Multiple clones have been made of her, known as the Redacted Enemies. Eventually, she will climb up the ranks of the Calamity faction to a point where she became the Servant, as referred in the Nightmare map Finality. And of course, the Awakened being the cultist, and Nemesis being a high rank, they will definitely worship the Goddess of Vengeance. Now, I believe that she sent the Awakened to start the invasion, to take down the GDA and take revenge on Dr. Xenon. Well, how did she knew that Xenon was still out there, and no action has been taken against her for what she did? Well, this is the part where we come back to the fight between the Wretched and Eradicator MK4. Now we know that Dr. Malory worked with Dr. Xenon in some Eradicator type suits for the GDA, as in the Eradicator skins for John and Juggernaut, who also in the cutscene. So she probably was alerted by the fight between the Wretched and MK4 and saw the aftermath. She recognized the design of Eradicator MK4. It was similar to the suits she wore with Dr. Xenon back in the day, way too similar, and that's where she realized Xenon was still out there, and the GDA did not take any action against her. This made her incredibly mad. The person that sacrificed her was still free. She will not let that happen. She will make them pay for what they have done. She will take revenge against Dr. Xenon, but also at the GDA for letting her free. Not for nothing they call her the Goddess of Vengeance. So after the Wretched got his new body by the engineer, and taking the role as the leader of the Awakened, She gave the command to the Wretched to start the invasion. And of course, the Awakend being the cold they are, they agree with the command. The invasion was not only to stop the Jedi for keep stealing Calamity resources, but also a personal motive to take revenge against the person that killed her, and the people that did nothing about it. And if my worship to the boy theory is right, then that's another motive for the Awakend to start the invasion, not only because it was a command for the Goddess of Vengeance, because they have resentment against the GDA, they have killed their god. And that's why the Awakend, out of all the Calamity entities, they worship the Goddess of Vengeance. They relate to each other, they have similar motives and enemies. The Awakend wanting to destroy the GDA because they killed Void and keep stealing Calamity resources, while Nemesis wants revenge against Xenon for sacrificing her, who also at the GDA for letting him live. They will make them regret for what they have done. And with that, we finally finished chapter 3 of this video. If you have another theory or something you wanna point out, feel free to put in the comments below. With that being said, let's finally move on to chapter 4. Finally, the reason you click on this video. Let's finally talk about why I think the Awakend faction is the coolest faction I see in a Roblox tower defense game. So let's begin with the army. As I talked before in chapter 2 of this video, their army is pretty much composed of stolen assets and corrupted soldiers from other factions to make them fight for them. This shows how they operate, which is a perfect contrast to the GDA. The GDA puts propaganda and recruits people so they can fight together against any global threat, while saving multiple innocent lives and having a morality to not revive the dead. While the Awakend straight up possess civilians, corrupts anything on their way, while having no problem stealing resources from other factions and reviving the dead to make them fight for them. The concept of corrupted towers and bosses gonna be one of the coolest things I've seen. You're not only firing your own forces, but also corrupted versions of enemies we have fought before. And this is one of the things that make the Awakend so threatening. They fight fire with fire. They don't care about the GDA trying to save people, or Dr. Xenon motives. They only seek revenge and the GDA's downfall, at whatever cost. Something else I wanna talk about is the enemies design in general. The concept artists in the developer team have done such an amazing job designing the enemies for this faction. Honestly, one of the most aesthetically pleasing designs I've seen in a tower defense game. Butcher cultists, walking corpses, converted civilians and soldiers. Every single one of them has a characteristic that makes them unique and unsettling to look at. Even with the return on the Easter event, they still have a horror element despite being Easter themed. There's multiple enemies that stand out more than others, but I wanna talk about 3 of my personal favorites. The Diabolist. Despite being an annoying enemy in game, he has quite an interesting design. Being similar to the cultist with the purple glowing eyes at the hut, you can tell there's something really wrong with him. The unnatural size of his head, his twitching eye roll animation, blood coming down from his mouth, spikes rolling on his chest, and the ability to shoot projectiles from his mouth. All this being a result from the corruption. It's such a cool enemy design for an enemy that does such a simple thing. I really love the way it shows how much the corruption can affect one individual. It can grant you with new abilities, but at the cost of painful mutations, turning you into something unrecognizable. The Husk. Probably one of the most forgotten enemies in this faction, which is a shame because he has such a great design. Despite being a walking corpse, he's a really imponent enemy to face against, not only from his size, but also from the fact that he doesn't back down. Despite missing his right arm, part of his head, his ribcage exposed, he still marches forward, taking down whoever gets in his way, giving everything he got despite being a broken corpse. He will still march forward. He's still strong enough to take down whoever gets in his way, being one of many walking corpses that the Awakend can resurrect and control. The Nail Golem, one of the engineer's creations. He's unlike any other enemy I mentioned before. He's not a possessed, nor a corrupted enemy, but one made by the engineer, as he only appeared in Halloween Chapter 2, and only appearing on the last wave. His appearance being one of a humanoid with armor and spikes all around him, and his face being mostly covered by a dark hood and the face implant that only shows the bottom row of his teeth, giving him an uncertain look. I thought he's an organic being, since he can be perceived by just hanging from a hook and being awakened the moment they've been released, accompanying the engineer on his way to defeat the GDA. And similar with the Husk, he's not only tanky, but also a quite fast enemy, making him a threat if you're not ready, since he can drop in the middle of the battlefield, catching you by surprise. Overall, his appearance is really intimidating. His facial expression says it all, despite we can only see his teeth. The concept is quite agonizing. Now let's talk about the Heretic and the Engineer. These two play an important role in the Awakend faction. The Heretic, priest of the cult. And before I continue, I must clarify that there are multiple heretics, and not only one as many believe. And I know this because in the History event Part 2, Nightmare Mode, 3 heretics appear, and the one spawned in by the engineer. But also this community post made by the GJ, which is now deleted. Anyways, as I was saying, the heretic is the priest that in his words, he shows the truth to the non-believers, guilt-tripping the ones that oppose to his beliefs. He's able to possess civilians and create a horde to eventually lead it. With the power of his book, he's able to support bosses and enemies with magic, and summon fanatics to constantly heal him, and his staff to deal damage to multiple towers. One alone may not be an issue, but remember, there's multiple of them, and they all constantly show the ways of their word and the truth. Calamity is all. The Engineer, technological argumentation, the fan favorite. And for a very good reason. He's an interesting character in the game lore, but also a very iconic boss, especially with his line, he's the one in charge to create and manufacture many enemies and machines we fight during the invasion, having many abilities to defend himself, from the machine gun attached to his arm, that it can also shoot a death knell dealing massive amounts of damage, and sometimes straight up killing off the tower. And probably one of the many people like his EMP, or he starts to emit a purple light from his chest that gets brighter by the second, and mechanical sounds are being heard, to eventually discharge in a massive shockwave that it can instantly kill any flying unit in range, but also stunning and jamming any tower in its radius, while also being the only boss that can control the map, and he is able to release the nail golems. Although some of his finest works are stolen assets from Dr. Xenon, he did reprogram them and gave them new abilities to make them fight for them against the GDA, the Dreadnoughts and Corrupted Predators being one of his greatest creations. The Corrupted Predators being stronger versions of the original, now with the ability to possess towers with its conversion beam, shoot parasites to possess them, and charge forward to incredible speed. One detail I like is the parasite shoots, the Leecher. It's a worm that sticks to the tower, possessing it, making attack others, and it pretty much doesn't go away. Now the Dreadnoughts. I love their design. A walking mech from a cult gotta be the coolest things I've seen. 3 heavily armored machines that stop at nothing and will fight to the very end just to take you down. Each one of them having a different role. I wonder who are the drivers. Probably nail golems, since we only see them once. Now let's move on to the OSTs, both ambience and bosses. It would be a crime to not talk about them. So let's begin with the ambience OSTs, being incredible pieces of work from the GJ and Dev packs. Each one of them being very fitting with their corresponding chapters. Like chapter 1, having this feeling of dread and mystery as you enter to the unknown territory of the possessed, fighting against hordes sent by the heretic. Chapter 2's theme, being a little more joyful, was so chaotic. After all, the map of Chapter 2 is one of Xenon's factory that the engineer took over, and you have to defend two paths while holding back the horde of workers engineer's finest creations. Now, Chapter 3 themes gets interesting. It's a feeling of dread as you look in the center of the map with a citadel surrounded by hordes of doom-dead and mechanical juggernauts. But also yourself defending with everything you have against hordes of possessed enemies and machinery on their way to finish you and the artillery, so you have to hold on and defend the artillery at all costs. Now Chapter 4 has some very interesting OSTs, even more than Chapter 3. All the tracks for this chapter feel like stages, or at least for me. It starts simple, with the track being more immersed with the map, the GDA's last stand in the middle of a ruined city. But it gets progressively more dreadful. The hordes are getting more overwhelming and aggressive. It's a constant reminder that this is your last stand against the Awakened, and you need to brace yourself against the arrival of something or someone. Chapter 4 has my favorite ambience OST, Hollow City by Deadpacks. This track is a perfect introduction to Chapter 4, as you get ready to fight off the army of the dead, coming from all the sides. What seems endless waves of undead, broken corpses, and corrupted counterparts, all of them marching with the objective to take you down in your last stand. Then you look around you. The world is in ruins. It has been taken over by the Awakened. Buildings crumble down. A dense fog suffocating the air, and your base in the center of it all. It seems that there's no hope left. But do you really believe that? Will you not stand your ground? Will you not fight? Will you not claim your place? It is to say, I love this soundtrack. It's a perfect introduction to Chapter 4. It really immerses you with the map. And if it is the first soundtrack I hear every time I do this chapter, I stop defending and go buy with it. Having already talked about ambience OSTs, let's move on to bosses. All of them are great in their own way, but I want to talk about two of them in particular. Vendetta. This one is very simple, yet so different to the rest. It's all about putting things together with the pieces of others' demise, as say in the lyrics and even the DJ in his livestream.
Yeah, I put myself together with a piece of your demise. It's a pretty badass line. Yeah, when John sent me the concept art and told me how, like, the engineer actually puts himself together with pieces of fallen bosses and soldiers, I was like, oh, that's a pretty good theme. So I stitched together a lot of different sounds, like the OST and the lyrics. Everything is about putting things together from the corpses of other things, you know.
But he also tells us how he's able to control the entire Factorium at his will, from calling avatars from above, dropping the nail golems, while he's taunting you with his line, as the welders constantly heal him, the Heretic providing additional support, and the corrupted predators charging in, creating even more chaos in the Factorium. It's all a strategy from the engineer to fight off the GDA raid. And as the OST comes close to an end, he reaches to his final stand. He fights with everything he's got. EMP, machine gun, death knell, all of that while repeating multiple times. But finally he shuts down, along with the factory he once controlled. But of course, he's not going down that easily. Soul Bound to Steal. For me, this OST is the definition for chaos. This OST is for the Dreadnoughts. The first 15 seconds of this OST sounds like another ambient song, but more intense. Was originally meant to be another ambient OST, but at the end ended up sounding way too cool. it sounds like big heavy footsteps, as if it is announcing the arrival of something mechanical and dangerous. And then the music drops. 5 heavy armor mechs walk into the battlefield. So open to steal there's no organic things, as their soulless machinery designed to kill, burn and crush the souls from who oppose against them. Despite not having any lyrics, it doesn't need them. The pure heavy steps, heavy machinery releasing chaos is enough. Especially for the boss we fight against, the dreadnoughts. As the OST progresses, they walk into the battlefield one by one. Ravager creates pressure with his flamethrower, burning anyone in the front lines. Striker taking down flying units and providing AoE damage with his missiles, while being able to attack the objective from afar. And finally, Contemptor, the strongest of them all, providing additional support to his team, with a machine gun gunning down anyone on his way, and a player attached to it to melee nearby soldiers, while holding the banner of the Goddess of Vengeance. As they march forward, they get weaker and weaker. The GD soldiers keep shooting at them, and start to hold them off. They fight with everything they've got till they're down. One by one, they fall, and shuts down, until Contemptor is left, shooting and stabbing anything that stands on his way, until he finally shuts down and falls defeated. Having talked about the OST, let's move on to the lore around the Awakened. Even though they're just the call of the Calamity, they still play a big part in the TDX lore, even having a few mysteries yet to solve, like the relation with the Void, Eradicator Mark IV, the strap of the Wretched, and him knowing about the traitor.
There is a traitor among you. How long until you realize who it is?
It opens for much theories, and it had great impact in the community. And the fact we can still see what's left of them in Castile and Rich map, we can see a few Calamity staffs similar to the Heretic, letting us know that this structure was used by the Awakened during the invasion. You can even see a few dragons of Malory, or Nemesis, in the walls. They also may be the reason why Dr. Xenon was so desperate to get those anti-calamity crystals, to prevent her factory to be taken over by unwanted guests and stealing all her creations again. And not to mention, the Awakened had the most successful global invasion out of any other TDX faction. They were able to take over the entire world, open portals across the planet, setting off factories to produce the enemies, citadels across different regions to keep the hordes alive, destroying giant artillery that threatened to destroy them, terraforming massive ground areas with large pools of lava, overwhelming the GTA with massive hordes, destroying their bases and pushing them to their last operating base. Dr. Xenon couldn't achieve something like this. She was only able to weaken them in nightmare mode, but never been able to push them to the very last stand like the Awakened did. The only reason why the Awakened lost the war is, well, the GDA had plot armor. A Paiser said that the last GDA base was the key to end the invasion, but we never get to know why or how he was able to end the war against the Awakened. Probably they have some anti-calamity crystals, but who knows? Maybe one day in the future we get a reason why that small GDA base was the key to end it all. Something else I wanna mention is the amount of hype and teasers we got from the developers for this one specific faction. I remember that we got a large amount of teasers from then all the way back in August of 2024. Hell, even the first teaser of them was all the way back in July 15. And from there, we got a bunch of teasers introducing to the Awakened army. There's even one in the Ghost Tower teaser. Multiple class Calamity soon emerging. They even gave us a full introduction picture for them on August 27, telling us the release date of the trailer. I don't even think that Nightmare Mode got this many teasers. The community, even myself, knew this was going to be huge. And when the trailer finally dropped, man, it was one of the coolest things I've seen, presenting the main antagonist of this event, the Wretched, which is voiced by Aaron Prevails. He made such an incredible job. It also gave us a glimpse of what was the GDA gonna face this time. A cult more powerful, more than anyone could have thought. Self-proclaimed itself to destroy the GDA and take over the world. And when the event was finally released, it really did not disappoint. Despite all the delays and problems this event had, this one is one of my all-time favorite events I played in a Roblox tower defense game. It brought a lot of good things to the game. It gave us unique game mechanics, great enemies and boss designs, great soundtracks, and one of the most well-written villains I've seen. And most important of all, they had a great impact in the community. Truly one of the greatest factions to ever exist. Well, I think that's everything for this chapter. I could go into more specifics and details, but I really need to sleep. It's 2 AM as I'm finishing this part of the script, so let's just move on to chapter 5. Finally, the final chapter. This one is going to be about the Wretched. I will explain him as a character and what I personally believe makes him a great character and antagonist in the TDX lore. The Wretched, the spawn of hell, he's the leader of the Awakend. He leads the army of the dead, possessed and corrupted. He strategized, and he's the one that declared war against the GDA. His personality is one of the factors that makes him so intimidating, and his speech is used to serve the world, but also tries to manipulate the player to surrender and let the army end us for once and for all. The Wretched is personally one of my favorite characters in these Halloween events, and in TX in general. His personality is one of an imponent and intimidating leader. He has the power to control the entire army, and he gives powerful and yet fearful speech, not only to declare war, but also to strike fear into his enemies. Especially when you remember a Bison, the most two-faced character in the game. He fears the Wretched. When the wayfire starts in chapter 4, he doesn't even try to say the Wretched name, or at least try to tell you how to counter him, like he usually does. He just tells you that he's here. You know it's so good when a Bison literally starts calling out to God. The only other entity to produce a similar reaction was Calamity during the events of Endless Mode, but he didn't really fear him. It was more of a shock and surprise reaction to see a hellish entity spawn. With the Wretched, he actually feared him, and for a good reason. He knows what he's capable of. He was able to take over the entire world, destroy the entire cities, destroy most of the GDA-based regions, and he's the only character, the only leader of this faction to come this close to successfully taking down the GDA than any other villains. Even Xenon, the main antagonist of TDX, couldn't get as close to destroy the GDA like the Awakend did. The closest that she got was with the Emperor, which its explosion took out 10 million lives and brought a feast of Earth.
Does it have the capability of producing an explosion like the Emperor did a few weeks ago?
No, I removed all its weapons. Only the head is connected. It can do nothing else since I quarantined it.
At least 10 million lives were lost in that explosion. A piece of Earth was burned to a crisp.
But the GDA still stood strong after that. Her creations couldn't do as much damage to the GDA nor affect a visor like the Awakend or the Wretched did. Also, the Wretched is the third strongest character in the TDX lore, just behind Void and Emperor. His design is one of the things I personally really like about him. One of the greatest designs in a tower defense game. It's a mix of organic and machinery, being a consequence of the fight between him and MK4. I really love his design. The concept of a half-dead leader being powered by energy straight from hell itself, with mechanical spider legs, the spine that acts as a tail when he can slither and burrow the ground, and the face plates that can split open to reveal his skull. The weapons attached to him and his eyes allow him to tower over GDA bases. That's just peak fiction. It makes him a truly threatening and imponent boss to face against. This body allows him to jump across large distances and landing safely while targeting nearby troops, move around faster, His deadly arsenal of weapons that allows him to deal heavy damage and cause chaos so his summons can breach the defenses. The Wretched may not have magic abilities like the Engineer or the Heretic, but he doesn't really need to. He knows how to be a leader. He knows how to begin a global invasion. He is capable to control a full army. He knows how to inflict fear into his enemies, to give powerful speech and make his army arise and claim their place. If he wants to declare war against someone, he will definitely do it and not back down, and still deliver a fight where he will be victorious. The Engineer may be the smart guy with his inventions, but the Wretched knows how to use them. He knows when to send them, to target and defend. He may not be the best at combat, but he will still deliver a good fight. Despite all the blows he receives during the battle, he doesn't back down, he doesn't break down. He continues to fight to the very end, taunting the enemy. Even when it seems he has been weakened, he still stands strong and continues to fight until him or the enemy falls dead. Although he has one flaw, his ego. He is arrogant. He considers himself superior than humanity itself, or anyone else in particular. He was ambitious and obsessed with his goals. Way too much. He thought he already won the war, due to how successful the invasion was going. He was proud of himself and thought nothing would stop this victory. He had survived the fight with MK4. He destroyed him with his bare hands, with a mechanical body. He was so confident of himself. And with his new mechanical body, what could possibly stop him? That's why he sent Karate Apex Predator by himself to destroy the GDA. He thought that was the final blow to destroy the GDA, and was annoyed after he was defeated. And during the final battle against the GDA, he realized his mistake. Too late. Even though he fought with everything he had, and with the help of the last remaining Engineer's creations, it still wasn't enough, and he eventually needed his demise. He overestimated himself and underestimated the GDA, and that was his fatal mistake. A mistake that led him to make his end. With a final scream of disbelief to his defeat, he finally falls dead. Will he ever return? Only time can tell. This could be a decent spot to end the video. But no, not for now. I still wanna share some reward ideas I have for him, because, well, we know he's not the best boss in game, and I'm not gonna talk about why, because another 500 people already did. That's why I will share with you some ideas I have to improve his boss fight. I know there's another video about that. If you haven't seen it, you go check it out. But I will share some ideas of my own. Before I begin, I must clarify that I'm not a balancer or anything like that. I'm just sharing some ideas and abilities for him. I'm doing this for fun too. So nothing more to say, let's begin. First, let's talk about the Wretched behavior. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, here's a clip from John that explains it.
So this is the first concept art of it. And yeah, it's pretty cool. He's basically a giant spider guy, and he will have a cool second phase that'll change the way he behaves in the game. That has not been showcased at all. It's not like a sort of rage mode where they just go faster. No, it doesn't. This is something entirely new and only something that pretty sure will be only a TDX moment again, because I haven't really seen another game do this sort of behavior change.
From my idea, the Wretched will have different behaviors on his face. His first phase, he will walk around the GDA base much closer, and he will be more aggressive with his attacks. His targeting is more AoE focused, attacking them up close and moving a lot faster, trying to weaken your defenses as much as he can with the help of his summons. Speaking of the summons, the enemies that spawn in the final wave with him will now gain shield, about 35% of the base HP. For his second phase, it's gonna be quite the opposite. He will keep his distance from the base, attacking it from afar. His target now will be focused on strongest towers and supports. He will specifically target towers with a lot of supports on each side of the map. He will now charge at towers more frequently, with a few abilities I will mention in a few moments. Also, his summons will become a lot more stronger and frequent. Next, let's give him some resistances, as he doesn't have a lot. I will leave his current resistances, since they're pretty much fine. But I will give him 20% bullet resistance, 25% laser resistance, and 30% golden resistance. You might say it's a lot, but he's pretty much powered from the energy of hell. Pretty much the same energy that powers the golden towers, so it makes sense to have a counter to them. And now with the bottom path Toxinator, we know he's able to lower the resistances of both enemies and bosses, but for the Wretched, it will only reduce half of what the Toxic Gunner originally reduces. As well with the Grenadier top path ability, he also gains stealth detection on his first phase, but he loses it on the second phase. He will also gain 666,666 shield whenever he spawns. It's also giving him some passive abilities. While he's in his first phase, he will get close to his GDA base as I mentioned before, but towers that get stunned by his mechanical legs will receive 1250 damage with a stun of 8 seconds. Every time he jumps and lands, nearby towers will get damaged by 10% of their base HP, and units in a 15 start radius will get instantly killed. And for the last one, since he's the leader, nearby enemies will receive a 50% damage buff and a 10% speed buff, only when he's nearby, which is about 20 stats. Finally, we will talk about his abilities, but before I mention some new ones I have in mind, I want to buff 3 existing ones. The first one being the Dual Blaster Destruction, his minigun attack. This new ability will now do a spray of bullets on a large area, just like Heretic and Keep 2. Any tower that gets hit will receive a massive amount of damage, so you better have those medics. Also, whenever he tries to single target a tower and it gets over, he will ignore it and target a different one. The second ability I wanna buff is the Plasma Bombardment attack. For this one, instead of being just a one-shot tower thing, it will be a big explosive projectile. The Wretched will target a tower with high value, and it will instantly kill it. It won't matter if it is a Golden Juggernaut or a Max Refractor, it's gonna get obliterated. And it will also bypass shield and over medics. Also, since it's an explosive projectile now, towers nearby will not only receive damage, but the ones that were closer to the tower that got killed will now be corrupted for a few seconds. And for the final one, his anti-air missile attack. I'll make it start targeting air towers. It means now it can target ground-based towers. Each missile will now do 1700 damage with a splash zone of 5. And for our first ability, it's called Corrupt Bombardment. This ability will now allow the Wretched to corrupt towers. Since he's the final boss of the events, and he literally runs on Calamity Energy and Corruption, so I find it quite stupid he cannot corrupt towers. For this ability, he will shoot a total of 18 projectiles, and he will target nearby towers that have 5000 value, and the corruption will last around 40 seconds, and he's gonna avoid corrupting support towers. And I say this because Corrupted Apex Predator can convert your medics, which pretty much does nothing. For his second ability, I'll call it Trampoline Rush. I have 2 outcomes for this ability. For the first one, he will lock in position and charge forward in a straight line. Each tower that gets hit will receive a total of 75 damage of their base HP, while also being stunned for a considerable amount of time, leaving them very vulnerable against incoming hordes. For the second one, he will also charge forward, but instead of dealing a massive amount of damage, he will only stun them. But while he is charging, he will drop a total of 3 bombs from his back. 3 bombs every second, and these bombs will immediately explode after the Wretched stops running. Each bomb will deal a 20% damage of the tower's HP, while also having a splash radius of 3. Finally, his second phase. For this phase, he will gain the Demazing type ability. This ability will use an unused animation for the Wretched. I will show the clip with the original video copyrighted, so just use your imagination. This ability will allow him to target the strongest tower nearby, while also avoiding getting hit, and it makes him immune to any damage. He will burrow out of the ground just to dive back down, on top of said tower, and when he finally lands, he will instantly kill it. bypassing any shield or medic's ability, but you can still save such tower. It's gonna take around 2 seconds to finally get the tower. While that happens, inside tower will display a shadow, and it's gonna get more noticeable as the Wretched falls. So you can just save it by selling it, or just have combat medic, I don't know. For his second ability, it's gonna be similar to the trampoline rush ability I mentioned before. And it will also have 2 outcomes. For the first one, it's pretty much gonna be the exact same as before, but with a smaller hitbox. But in return, the Wretched will now deal a total of 85% damage of the tower's HP. For the second outcome, the Wretched will now deal damage instead of stunning towers, a total of 2000 damage, and the bomb spawn time will be increased to 1.5 seconds. And the bombs will explode when the Wretched has stopped charging, or in this case, he will borrow back down. And for our final ability, and my personal favorite, the Awakening. He will use this ability once, but he will also use a part of his OST, more specifically, the core at 5 minutes with 12 seconds. He's gonna use this ability in his second phase when he reaches 30% of his base HP. He will borrow as far away from the GDA base. He will stare for a few seconds, and when the song finally hits 5 minutes with 21 seconds, he will raise his hands like the trailer and scream. Arise! And then, hell itself unleashes. A mass summon of enemies happened. This mass summon will include the majority of enemies from past chapters. The judges from chapter 1, the Nail Golems from chapter 2, Barrel Master Tanks, Horse Wendigos, and so on. And this summon can include one Ravager Dreadnought for Nightmare mode. All the enemy summon will charge against the GDA base, a final push to overrun them and finally put an end to this war, to finally take down the GDA, finally bringing to its demise. And these were all my ideas for the Wretched rework. As I said before, I know palettes or anything, so don't expect any of these abilities to be fair in any way. Personally, I like this character from the lore perspective. I know he's not a great boss in game, but I don't really mind that. I still believe he's one of the greatest antagonists that this game has offered so far. And with that, we finally finished this chapter. I can finally end this video. Lots of yapping and stuff to make this video, but I hope you enjoy it. I've been working this for some time, but I hope it was worth it at the end, especially for you, my dear viewer. Before I finally end this video, I would like to give some credit to Aaron Prevails for the music for the intro and also the outro. Also some credits to Tempax from the Halo series OST, and especially the TJ for all the OSTs used in this video, but also the livestream clips. I would also like to thank some content creators that I will put on the screen for inspiring me to make this video, and their videos helping me create the script. But most importantly, a big thanks to you, viewer, for sticking through this 1 hour long video and watch it all the way to the end. And if you'd like to share something of the Awakend, like lore, or what you like about them, feel free to put in the comments below. But nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Leave a like if you wish, and I'll see you in my next video.